Welcome back to Beyond the Battlefield, where we explore not only the wars happening outside us, but the quieter wars shaping us from within. And today, we enter one of the most important turning points in the entire Bhagavad Gita. Till now, Krishna has been preparing Arjuna, teaching him how to act, how to stabilize the mind, how to remain steady in success and failure, how to meditate, how to live without collapsing under emotional chaos. But now, something shifts, a profound shift. Because in Chapter 7, Krishna no longer speaks only about discipline. He begins revealing the nature of reality itself. Consciousness, existence, the deeper intelligence behind life, and humanity's relationship with the infinite. And what's fascinating is this: Krishna does not begin with philosophy. He does not begin with cosmic theories. He does not begin with metaphysics. He begins with the inner state of the listener. Because Krishna understands something modern leadership still struggles to understand. Truth is not received only through intelligence. It is received through the condition of consciousness. So today, we begin Chapter 7, verse 1.
O Partha, with your mind deeply connected to me, taking refuge in me, practicing yoga in this spirit, you shall know me completely, without doubt. Now listen carefully to how this happens.
Ankur, this verse feels deceptively simple. But honestly, something about it feels enormous. Almost like Krishna is opening a completely new doorway.
He absolutely is. This is not just another verse. This is one of the great transitions of the Gita. Till now, Krishna was helping Arjuna regain balance. But now, Krishna begins preparing Arjuna for direct understanding of existence itself. And notice carefully, Krishna first changes Arjuna's orientation before revealing deeper truth. That is extraordinarily important. Modern education teaches us first collect information. But Krishna says something radically different. First, transform the state from which you are listening. Because two people can hear the same truth. One transforms, one resists, one becomes wiser, one becomes defensive. And the difference is not information. The difference is inner orientation.
That's honestly so relevant today. Because we live in a world overflowing with information. Books, podcasts, AI tools, leadership frameworks, courses, content. And yet, people still feel fragmented, anxious, directionless, emotionally exhausted.
Yes, because information alone cannot transform consciousness. And Krishna begins addressing exactly that crisis here. He says, attach your mind to me. Now this becomes confusing for many people. Because throughout the Gita, attachment is usually described as dangerous. So why is Krishna suddenly asking for attachment? The answer is profound. There are lower attachments and higher attachments. Lower attachment means clinging, fear, possession, control, dependence, identity addiction, like attachment to status, recognition, productivity, social image, success, outcomes, or constant validation. And honestly, that is exactly where modern leadership is suffering today.
Because leaders are constantly orbiting around external pressure.
Yes, and whatever your mind continuously orbits around shapes your identity. If a leader's mind revolves around fear, leadership becomes reactive. If it revolves around comparison, leadership becomes insecure. If it revolves around ego, leadership becomes manipulative. But Krishna speaks about another kind of attachment, an upward pull of consciousness, like a sunflower turning toward sunlight, like a river moving toward the ocean, like a seeker drawn toward truth. This attachment liberates, it does not imprison.
So when Krishna says, attach your mind to me, he's not asking for blind personality worship?
Not at all. And this is one of the most misunderstood parts of the Gita. When Krishna says me, he is not speaking from ego, he is speaking from universal consciousness. Osho explains this beautifully. He says Krishna's I is not personal identity. It is existence speaking through a human form. So Krishna here represents the highest intelligence, the deepest truth, the universal consciousness behind existence itself. He is saying, let your mind become aligned toward the highest.
That changes the entire meaning of the verse.
Completely. And then Krishna says, take refuge in me. This does not mean psychological dependence. Krishna never teaches weakness. He never says, stop thinking, become passive, or escape life. Refuge means anchoring, grounding, inner alignment, existential stability. Like when a violent storm hits the ocean, a ship drops anchor. Krishna is saying, anchor yourself in something deeper than temporary chaos.
And honestly, modern life feels like permanent chaos now. AI disruption, career uncertainty, burnout, constant comparison, economic pressure, identity confusion.
Yes, and most people take refuge in unstable things. Money, approval, roles, followers, achievement, control. But the problem is, all temporary things eventually shake. And when they shake, identity shakes with them. That is why externally successful people often feel internally fragile, because their refuge is unstable. And Krishna is saying something revolutionary. Place your center deeper than circumstance. That single shift can transform leadership. Because a leader anchored in fear creates fear. A leader anchored in ego creates division. But a leader anchored in deeper consciousness creates clarity, steadiness, courage, compassion, non-reactive intelligence.
And then Krishna says, Yogam Yunjan. Practice yoga. This part feels important too.
Extremely important. Because Krishna is warning us against intellectual spirituality. He's saying this truth is not understood merely by discussion. It is understood through alignment, through practice, through lived awareness, through conscious action. And honestly, this is one of the greatest problems of modern life. People consume endless wisdom, but rarely transform. We watch reels about mindfulness, but remain restless. We read about detachment, but panic over outcomes. We talk about purpose, but live mechanically. As Osho says beautifully, Krishna is not teaching philosophy like a professor. He is creating communion, because existence cannot be understood coldly. The intellect alone remains dry. Truth opens only when mind, heart, awareness, and being move together.
So this verse is not merely about devotion. It is actually about preparing human consciousness to receive truth.
Yes, And that may be one of the most important lessons for the AI age, because AI can increasingly provide information, analysis, prediction, optimization. But Krishna is speaking about something beyond information, consciousness orientation. And the real future crisis may not be lack of intelligence, it may be misdirected consciousness. People may know everything and still not know themselves. And Krishna begins solving that crisis right here in the very first verse of chapter 7.
In the previous verse, Krishna prepared Arjuna's inner state. He said, "Align your mind toward the highest, anchor yourself in deeper reality, practice yoga, and then you will truly understand." But now, Krishna makes an astonishing declaration, one so bold that even today it sounds almost impossible. Chapter 7, verse 2.
I shall now explain to you fully both knowledge and direct realization in such completeness that after knowing this, nothing more remains to be known.
Encore, honestly, that sounds impossible. How can Krishna say, "Know this and nothing more remains to be known"? Especially today, when knowledge is expanding endlessly. AI, science, technology, psychology, neuroscience, leadership systems. The more humanity learns, the more new questions appear.
And that is why this verse is so extraordinary. Krishna is not saying you will suddenly know every scientific fact. He is pointing towards something much deeper. He is saying there is a fundamental understanding after which the root confusion of life dissolves. And once the root confusion dissolves, life is no longer fragmented.
So, Krishna is talking about foundational wisdom, not endless information?
Yes, and Krishna uses two incredibly important words here, Jnanam and Savijnanam. And this distinction changes everything.
What's the difference?
Gyan means knowledge, understanding, conceptual clarity. For example, you read about meditation, you study emotional intelligence, you learn leadership theory, you understand spirituality intellectually. That is Gyan. And honestly, modern civilization is overflowing with this kind of knowledge. But then Krishna adds another word, Savijnanam. And this means direct realization, lived experience, embodied truth, not talking about peace, but becoming peaceful, not discussing awareness, but experiencing awareness, not teaching compassion, but naturally radiating compassion. This is where Krishna completely separates information from transformation.
That feels incredibly relevant today. Because honestly, people consume wisdom constantly now. Books, podcasts, reels, courses, AI-generated insights. But internally, many still feel restless, burned out, emotionally reactive, disconnected.
Yes, and Krishna is addressing exactly that crisis. You can know about stillness and still panic under pressure. You can teach leadership and still collapse emotionally. You can explain detachment beautifully and still become shattered when your reputation is threatened. This is why Krishna says, I will not merely give you philosophy, I will lead you towards seeing.
And that's why Krishna says, nothing more remains to be known?
Because once you understand the foundation, everything else starts becoming clearer. Osho explains this beautifully. He says, humanity usually keeps searching for thousands of separate keys. One key for success, one for relationships, one for happiness, one for confidence, one for spirituality, one for leadership. But Krishna is pointing toward the master key, the one understanding that unlocks all the others.
That's such a powerful metaphor. Because modern life honestly feels exactly like that. We keep collecting more tools, more frameworks, more strategies. But internally, we still don't feel whole.
Exactly. And that fragmentation is becoming even more intense in the AI age. Today we have unlimited information, infinite content, instant answers, constant stimulation. And yet, anxiety rises, burnout rises, loneliness rises, identity confusion rises. Why? Because information is multiplying, but inner integration is missing.
So Krishna is not against knowledge. He's against incomplete knowledge.
Beautifully said. Yes, Krishna is not anti-intelligence. In fact, the Gita is deeply analytical. Krishna explains psychology, emotion, action, ego, consciousness, perception, but he refuses to stop at concepts because concepts alone cannot transform being.
That reminds me of something you once said, that wisdom is not measured by what you can explain, but by how you respond under pressure.
Yes, because realization changes your nervous system. It changes perception, it changes reaction, it changes identity. And honestly, this is where leadership transformation truly begins. Most leadership education focuses on skills, communication, strategy, execution. All important. But Krishna goes deeper. Because most leadership failure is not caused by lack of technique. It comes from fear, ego, attachment, insecurity, unconsciousness. A brilliant mind without inner clarity eventually becomes dangerous.
That's incredibly relevant in the AI era too. Because intelligence is increasing rapidly, but human emotional maturity is not increasing at the same pace.
Yes, and that imbalance may become one of humanity's greatest future risks. Krishna is preparing Arjuna not merely to become informed, but internally integrated.
There's also something deeply humbling in this verse. Because Krishna calls this a mystery, not just a philosophy.
Yes, and Osho explains this beautifully. He says, philosophy tries to define truth, but mysticism enters mystery. The deeper reality becomes, the less it can be trapped inside rigid language. You can dissolve into truth, but you cannot fully imprison it into concepts.
So real wisdom creates humility, not arrogance.
Absolutely. And that is one of the signs of genuine realization. A truly wise person becomes softer, more open, more compassionate, less egoic, because they realize existence is infinitely deeper than the mind can fully capture. And maybe that is Krishna's real invitation here. Not collect more information, but transform the way you see. Because once perception changes, life itself begins changing.
In the previous verse, Krishna said something astonishing. He said, "There is a way of knowing after which the essential confusion of life dissolves." But now, Krishna says something even more startling. Chapter 7, verse 3.
Among thousands of human beings, hardly one strives for true realization. And among those who strive, hardly even one truly knows me in essence.
Ankur, honestly, this verse feels almost shocking, almost harsh. Krishna is basically saying, very few people even begin the real journey. And even among seekers, very few truly realize truth. Why would Krishna say something like this?
Because Krishna is revealing something profoundly important about human consciousness. This verse is not pessimistic, it is diagnostic. He is showing us why awakening is rare. And Osho explains this beautifully. He says, the divine is difficult to find, not because it is absent, but because it is too present.
That's deep.
Very deep. Osho gives an extraordinary metaphor. He says, a fish may search for many things, but it never searches for the ocean. Why? Because it is already inside it. And this is humanity's condition. We search success, recognition, relationships, achievement, control, but rarely search the source of existence itself, because it is already everywhere.
So Krishna is not saying truth is hidden. He's saying our attention is misdirected.
Exactly. And then Osho gives another incredibly powerful insight. He says, the human mind naturally runs toward what is absent, not toward what is present.
What does that mean?
He gives the example of a broken tooth. When all your teeth are healthy, you hardly notice them. But if one tooth breaks, your tongue repeatedly goes to the missing space. That is how the mind functions. It obsessively moves toward what is missing, what is incomplete, what is unavailable. And because of this, human beings ignore life itself, consciousness itself, existence itself, the sacredness already present.
That explains so much about modern life. People constantly feel not enough, not successful enough, not productive enough, not recognized enough.
Yes, and Krishna is pointing toward the root psychological pattern behind suffering. Most people live horizontally, reacting, comparing, chasing, repeating patterns. Very few live vertically, meaning very few seek transformation of consciousness itself.
And that's what Krishna means by Siddhaye?
Yes, and this is extremely important. Krishna is not talking about perfectionism, not social success, not achievement, not becoming flawless. Siddhi here means inner realization, awakening, wholeness, integration, a human being becoming fully conscious.
That completely changes the verse. Because externally, many people appear successful. But internally, they remain fragmented.
Exactly. And that fragmentation becomes dangerous in leadership. Modern culture rewards speed, visibility, performance, achievement, but very few people are trained to master fear, ego, attachment, emotional reactivity, inner silence. And then eventually, external success amplifies internal chaos.
This verse also feels incredibly relevant in the AI age. Because humanity is becoming more intelligent technologically, but not necessarily more conscious.
Yes, and that is one of the greatest future risks. AI will amplify human capability. But if consciousness remains fearful, egoic, fragmented, technology amplifies fragmentation too. That is why Krishna's question becomes so important now. How many truly seek inner evolution?
And then Krishna says something even deeper. Even among seekers, very few truly know reality. Why?
Because the ego can enter spirituality too. This is one of the most dangerous traps. A person may become spiritually informed, philosophically articulate, externally disciplined, yet still deeply ego-centered.
So even spirituality can become another identity.
Absolutely. And Osho warns about this repeatedly. He says the spiritual ego can become even more dangerous than ordinary ego. Because now the ego hides behind holiness. A person starts thinking, I am advanced, I know more, I am evolving, I am spiritual. But truth cannot be realized through egoic conquest.
That is incredibly powerful. So Krishna is not saying truth belongs only to rare, special people.
No. He is saying few are willing to dissolve completely because awakening threatens identity. The ego asks, if I let go fully, who will I become? So people unconsciously protect familiar suffering, familiar identity, familiar patterns. And that is why many people avoid silence. Because silence exposes the self beyond distraction.
So this verse is actually compassionate, not discouraging.
Very compassionate. Krishna is elevating the seriousness of the journey. He is saying, this is not entertainment. This is not intellectual decoration. This is transformation of being itself. And therefore, it requires total sincerity.
And maybe that is the real question Krishna leaves us with today. Are we merely improving our external life? Or are we truly evolving internally? Till now, in Chapter 7, Krishna has been speaking about seeking, consciousness, inner transformation, and the rare human being who truly longs for truth. But now, Krishna suddenly shifts into something astonishing. He begins explaining the structure of reality itself. Chapter 7, verse 4.
Earth, water, fire, air, space, mind, intellect, and ego. All these together constitute my separated material energies.
Ankur, this feels incredibly advanced. Because Krishna is not only talking about physical matter, he suddenly includes mind, intellect, and ego inside nature itself.
Yes, and that changes everything. This verse is one of the most revolutionary statements in the Bhagavad Gita because Krishna is presenting a radically different understanding of reality. Even modern science is still moving toward some of these realizations.
How so?
Look at how modern science evolved. For centuries, humanity believed matter was solid, something fixed, separate. Then Einstein completely changed that understanding. He showed matter and energy are not separate. They are interchangeable. E equals mc squared. And suddenly, the universe was no longer just solid objects. It became energy in different forms.
And now science is searching for unified field theory?
Yes, a single underlying field behind all forces and matter. But what's astonishing is this. Krishna had already declared something similar thousands of years ago. He says, all existence is manifestation of one Prakriti, one divine energy unfolding into countless forms: earth, water, fire, air, space, mind, intellect, ego, all expressions of one underlying energy.
That is honestly mind-blowing. Because modern life divides everything. Science here, psychology there, spirituality somewhere else.
Exactly. But Krishna destroys fragmentation. He presents existence as one continuum. And then he says something even more radical. Mind itself is material.
That's huge. Because most people feel, I am my mind.
Yes. But Krishna says mind is also part of Prakriti. It is nature. It is an instrument. It is observable. And this becomes one of the deepest insights of meditation. Thoughts change. Emotions change. Opinions change. Identity changes. But something within us observes all change. And Krishna is slowly guiding Arjuna toward that observer.
So the mind is not the deepest self. It is part of the machinery.
Exactly. And Krishna describes this machinery beautifully through 8 dimensions. First, the 5 gross elements: earth, water, fire, air, space. And then the 3 subtle elements: mind, intellect, ego.
Can we understand these psychologically too?
Earth represents stability, groundedness, the ability to remain steady under pressure. Water represents adaptability, the ability to flow and adjust. Fire represents transformation, passion, intensity. But uncontrolled fire becomes destruction. Air represents movement, flexibility, expansion. But excess mental air creates restlessness and anxiety. And space. Space is vastness, the capacity to allow, the inner openness where life can breathe. And honestly, one of the greatest modern crises is lack of inner space.
That feels so true. People are constantly stimulated. Notifications, meetings, content, AI tools, comparison, noise. And slowly, the mind becomes overcrowded.
Yes. And then Krishna moves even deeper. He speaks about mind, intellect, and ego. Mind processes impressions and emotions. Intellect discriminates and decides. And ego is the I maker.
What do you mean by that?
Ego continuously creates identity. It says, I am this is mine, this defines me. And slowly consciousness becomes trapped inside temporary labels. My success, my position, my image, my achievements, my pain, my story.
And then suffering begins when those identities shake.
And Krishna is helping Arjuna see something extraordinary. You are not merely the body, the thoughts, the emotions, the ego. These are layers of nature, processes, instruments, but not the deepest self.
This feels incredibly important in the AI age too. Because humanity is increasingly identifying with intelligence, with thinking, with information processing.
Yes. And Krishna makes a distinction that may become one of the most important philosophical questions of the future. He says, even intellect itself belongs to nature. So intelligence alone is not ultimate. AI may eventually simulate reasoning, analysis, prediction, learning. But Krishna points towards something beyond computation, consciousness itself.
And honestly, That changes how we see leadership too.
Completely. Most leadership models focus outward: strategy, performance, execution, influence. But Krishna begins from inner architecture, because leaders are constantly driven by mind fluctuations, ego reactions, identity attachment, emotional impulses, and without awareness of this inner machinery, leadership becomes unconscious.
So, verse 4 is not merely describing the universe, it is also describing the human condition.
Yes, and Krishna is preparing Arjuna for one of the greatest realizations, that everything changing, body, mind, thought, emotion, identity, belongs to nature. But the one who can observe all of this is something far deeper.
In the previous verse, Krishna described earth, water, fire, air, space, mind, intellect, and ego. He called them his lower nature. But now, something extraordinary happens. Krishna introduces an entirely different dimension of reality.
But beyond this lower material nature, there exists my higher nature, the living conscious energy by which this entire universe is sustained.
Ankur, this feels like one of the biggest shifts in the entire Gita. Because suddenly, Krishna separates matter from consciousness.
Yes, and this is one of the deepest philosophical breakthroughs in human thought. In verse 4, Krishna described the machinery of existence. But now in verse 5, he introduces the observer.
The observer.
Yes, everything changing belongs to lower nature. Body changes, thoughts change, emotions change, identity changes, even intellect changes. But Krishna says there is also something beyond all change, the conscious presence that experiences, observes, witnesses, animates life itself.
And Krishna calls that Paraprakriti.
Yes, and Osho gives a very important clarification here. He says, Para does not simply mean higher. It means that which is beyond. Beyond body, mind, intellect, ego. Beyond all psychological and material processes. And Krishna is not merely adding another layer. He is pointing beyond the entire structure itself. And this raises one of humanity's oldest questions. What is the difference between a living body and a dead body? Physically, many elements remain the same, but something essential is missing. And Krishna says that missing principle is consciousness itself, the living awareness, Jeev Bhutan, the principle of sentient life.
That feels incredibly relevant today, especially with AI and neuroscience advancing so rapidly.
Absolutely. Modern science can increasingly explain brain chemistry, neural networks, information processing, decision systems. But one mystery still remains. Why does awareness exist at all? Why is there experience, feeling, subjective presence? Why is there an inner world? And Krishna's answer is that consciousness is fundamental, not accidental. And honestly, this may become one of the most important distinctions in the AI age, because intelligence and consciousness are not the same thing. AI may increasingly reason, predict, write, simulate emotion, optimize decisions. But Krishna points towards something beyond computation, the capacity to experience existence, the living witness.
So, verse 4 described the machinery, and verse 5 introduces the one who can witness the machinery.
Yes, and this is the foundation of meditation. Osho explains something incredibly profound here. He says whatever can be observed cannot be the ultimate self. You can observe your thoughts, your emotions, your anger, your fear, your body. Therefore, you are deeper than them. So awareness itself becomes the doorway. And Osho calls this the beginning of witnessing consciousness, Sakshi Bhav. You begin observing, not controlling, not suppressing, just observing. And slowly a gap appears, a gap between awareness and identity. Osho says the moment this gap becomes clear, you begin entering Paraprakriti.
That feels incredibly liberating.
It is, because most human suffering comes from mistaken identity. We think, I am my thoughts, I am my emotions, I am my role, I am my success, I am my failure. But Krishna is slowly separating Arjuna from these layers. And Osho gives such a beautiful line here. We mistake the servants for the master. We remain entangled with body, mind, ego, thoughts, and never meet the deeper consciousness behind them. We got lost among the servants and forgot the master. That changes the entire way we look at life. Even leadership changes. Most leadership systems treat people like performance units, productivity systems, economic resources. But Krishna says human beings are conscious beings, not merely functional machinery.
And maybe that's why modern burnout has become so intense. Because people are treated like systems to optimize, not living consciousness to nurture.
Yes, and this verse becomes deeply healing psychologically. Most anxiety comes from over-identification with roles, image, achievement, thought patterns. But when awareness separates from these changing layers, inner freedom begins. And Krishna is not rejecting matter either. The Gita is not anti-world, not anti-body, not anti-life. Lower nature is also divine expression. The problem is not matter. The problem is unconscious identification.
That reminds me of the ocean and wave analogy.
The wave fears disappearance because it thinks it is separate. But the wave is never separate from the ocean. Similarly, human beings become trapped in temporary identities and forget the deeper consciousness from which they arise. And Krishna is gradually expanding Arjuna's identity from body to mind to awareness to consciousness itself. And notice the compassion in Krishna's teaching. He never forces belief, he guides perception, step by step. First, observe the mind, then see ego, then recognize awareness beyond both, and finally, realize the consciousness sustaining all existence. And maybe this is the deepest invitation of verse 7.5, not merely to improve life, but to discover the awareness through which life itself is being experienced.
As we close episode 72, Krishna has taken us through an extraordinary journey in just 5 verses. First, he prepared the inner state required to receive truth. Then, he distinguished information from realization. Then, he revealed why true seeking is rare. And finally, he separated the machinery of life from the consciousness that witnesses it. Body, mind, intellect, ego, all changing, all observable, But somewhere beneath all movement, there is awareness, the silent witness, the living presence through which life is experienced. And honestly, this may become one of the defining questions of the modern age. As AI becomes more intelligent, as systems become more optimized, as information becomes infinite, will human beings also deepen in consciousness? Or will we become more technologically powerful while remaining inwardly fragmented? Because Krishna reminds us, intelligence alone is not enough. Without awareness, even knowledge can become dangerous. But with consciousness, leadership changes, relationships change, work changes. The way we experience existence itself begins changing. And perhaps the deepest invitation of Chapter 7 is this: do not merely collect wisdom. Become available to transformation. Because the real battlefield has never been outside. It has always been within. Thank you for joining us on Beyond the Battlefield. If this episode resonated with you, share it with someone navigating their own inner battlefield. Like, subscribe, and follow the podcast on your favorite platform. And if you wish to connect with us directly, write to us at beyondthebattlefield@outlook.in. And don't forget to explore our Beyond the Battlefield GPT companion link in the description to continue reflecting on these timeless teachings in your own life. Until next time, stay aware, stay inwardly anchored, and keep walking beyond the battlefield.